Everyone always talks about what you should spend your money on and what you need to be doing with your money. Let's talk about what you should not spend your money on. These are 7 things you should not spend your money on, regardless of how much money you make. And make sure you stick around to the end because there might be a few bonus if you make it all the way to the end. There's only one way to find out. Let's get into it. The first thing you should not spend your money on is cigarettes. I'm personally not a huge fan of smoking, but if you were to smoke a pack a day for the next 10 years, you would spend over $130,000 just on cigarettes. And you're not even just paying for cigarettes. You're paying for possible health conditions, for possible medical bills, and higher life insurance. To me, it's just not worth it. So avoid smoking because smoking is bad for you, but also cigarettes are expensive. So do not buy cigarettes. The second thing that you should not buy is a new car, especially one that you can't afford. It's important to avoid debt at all costs, especially if it's unnecessary. You do not need a brand new luxurious car that you cannot afford, that you're going to be paying off for the next 5 years. It's unnecessary and you're just digging yourself into a hole over something you didn't really need. You can buy a used car. Buying a used car that's at least 3 years old is going to give you like a 50% discount. Cars lose over 50% of their value in the first 3 years. They depreciate so fast that it's not worth getting a new car. Unless you get some sort of deal that makes it worth it, you should not buy a new car. And especially don't just buy a car just to buy a car. If you need a car, buy a used car. If you want a new car, look into it and try to get the best deal that you can. Don't just buy a new car because you need a new form of transportation. There are a lot of alternatives out there, especially buying a used car. The third thing to avoid spending money on is trying to look rich. You should never try to impress people by buying expensive things. This can be subconscious, but do not try to impress people with materialistic things. There's a difference between being rich and acting rich. People are obsessed with trying to show how successful they are. Do not fall into this trap because you will end up spending way more money than you make and you will go into debt and you will regret it later. Do not try to impress people with flashy clothes, a big house you can't afford, a brand new car. It's just not worth it. Buy things that you can afford and try to avoid debt at all costs. I mean, with a house, I don't think many of us are going to be able to just buy a house all cash. If you can, great. Do you want to lend me some money? I'm kidding. But make sure you're not going into debt with liabilities. Those are things that are never going to make you more money than you spent on it. So like a brand new car, that is a liability because you are never going to be able to sell that car for more than you bought it. You can hope that you'll be able to flip your car, but that just doesn't happen unless it's like a vintage car or there's something special about it. Us regular old Joes, we are not going to be able to sell our brand new car for more money than we bought it with. So do not go into debt over unnecessary things, trying to impress people that you don't even know, that you don't even like, that won't even notice. Do not go into debt trying to impress people, and do not spend money on things that you cannot realistically afford. It is not important how people are going to perceive you if you own a certain thing. You should never think about it that way. You should get something because you want it, not because of what other people will think of you if you have it. So do not try to look rich and make sure you are spending less money than you make. Sounds like a given, but you'd be surprised how many people end up living paycheck to paycheck because they spend more money than they earn. The fourth thing you should not be spending money on is name brand groceries. Don't come for me, but the store brand and the name brand have the same requirements. They have the same approval process. They are just as good and you should give them a chance. You pay about 25% more on name brand products than you do with store brand products. I'd rather take that 25% discount. And you know why they mark it up 25%? is for the advertising. Store brands don't advertise, but the name brands, they do. So that's what you're paying for. You're paying for their advertisements. You're not even paying for the quality. I will say that there are some products that the quality is better, but you do have to try them out for yourself. You're not gonna die from trying a store brand product. You will be fine. They are all very similar to the name brands. Sometimes the quality is just not as good because they don't spend as much money on the research and development as the name brand companies, obviously, because they charge a little bit less. So it's definitely worth a shot to look into the store brand, and it'll save you a ton of money shopping the store brand items rather than all name brand products. The next thing you shouldn't be spending money on is single-use water bottles. Most of the tap water in the United States is drinkable. There are some places where it's not, so just disregard this if you're in one of those places. But the majority of the time, the tap water is just fine and it is safe to drink. People always complain about that, I don't like tap water. Tap water's not good enough for me. Well, you know, after about a couple days of drinking it, you wouldn't even notice a difference between the tap water and the bottled water. Your wallet would notice the difference because it's much cheaper to drink tap water or even just water from your fridge or water from a Brita filter or a pitcher full of water. It's much cheaper than buying single-use water bottles over and over and over again. And not to mention, it's better for the environment if you don't use single-use plastic and you use a reusable water bottle and just have a filter in your fridge, like a Brita filter or something similar to that. It'll save you a ton of money. I mean, I got a Brita filter from Target for $20 2 years ago. And I still have it. I also have reusable water bottles that I've been using for years now, and I've never had to buy single-use water bottles. It's such a waste of money, and you should not be spending money on it, ever. The next thing you should not be spending your money on is likes. Well, good thing they're free, so hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really helps me out, and let's get back into it. The sixth, that's kind of hard to say. It's like I have a little lisp. The sixth thing you should not spend your money on is anything at a convenience store. The markup on these things is crazy. You know, gas stations make more money from their snacks and drinks than their gas. That just tells you how much they mark up these products and how much you should not be buying them. Make your lunches at home, bring snacks from home, do whatever you have to do to not spend money at convenience stores or gas stations. You will save a lot of money just by bringing your own snacks. The seventh thing you should not be spending money on is impulse purchases. Things you see in ads on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media, do not buy it right then and there. If you have a use for it, great. Give yourself 24 hours to even think about it if you want it, if you need it, whatever. Give yourself 24 hours because most of the time you'll realize that you don't really need it and you're glad you didn't spend the money on it. But if you bought it, then you just have something that you don't really need and you wasted money. Impulse purchases are a bad habit that can eat away at your hard-earned money. Nip it in the bud and give yourself 24 hours or even just a few hours to think about if you really want to make that purchase and spend that hard-earned money that you worked hours and hours for. Make sure you're thinking about these purchases, obviously if it's not a necessity. And another thing you can do is you can wait until it goes on sale to buy it. So if it's something that you've been looking at for a while, wait until it goes on sale and then buy it, and you can save a few extra bucks or a few $100 depending on what it is. But wait until it goes on sale or wait 24 hours if you don't really need it. It will save you a ton of money. The next thing you should not spend your money on is lottery tickets. Gambling in general, but especially lottery tickets. I know what you're thinking. $1 for the possibility to win millions? Sounds like a done deal to me. Well, wrong. The odds are never in your favor. You have about a 1 in 3 million chance to win a big multi-million-dollar prize. If that's not enough to deter you from buying lottery tickets, just think if you would invest that money instead, you'd have much better odds of making some money rather than trying to get lucky. And I already know what you're thinking. Well, what about scratch tickets? Those have lower prizes. I must be able to get a greater return, right? Wrong. Scratch tickets are just as bad. Mr. Beast and other YouTubers have done great examples of this where they buy $100,000 worth of scratch tickets or just thousands of dollars worth of scratch tickets, and they barely even make their money back if they're that lucky. Scratch tickets do not give you any better of a chance than the Powerball, so avoid spending your money on lottery tickets and just invest that money instead. Although gambling does not have a guaranteed rate of return, I know one thing that's guaranteed. Tap that like button and it's guaranteed to put a smile on my face. Anyways, the next thing you should not spend your money on is credit card debt. Credit card debt is completely avoidable. You should never go into credit card debt. It's the worst type of debt. It's high interest. It takes forever to pay it off. It just keeps snowballing until it's out of control. You need to use your credit cards responsibly, and don't get one if you don't think you can handle it, or if you're not good with money, don't get a credit card. Credit cards are amazing for some, but you should not spend money on credit card debt and you should avoid it. Use your credit card responsibly and stick to your budget. And if you're not sure if you should get a credit card or not, check out this video next to learn the benefits of owning a credit card. Don't forget to subscribe for all things personal finance, and I'll see you guys next week.